Hello, my name is Kaitlyn Springer, the Occupational Therapy Capstone Intern, and this is session 2 of Sensory and Emotional Regulation Training. Today we are going to get into some more practical things now that we talked about our 8 senses last week. We defined regulation and dysregulation. This week we're going to talk about sensory zones, profiles, and diets, and how we can have sensory input in a sensory environment that helps us and our kids throughout our day. First, we are going to talk about the zones of regulation. If you're following along with your handout of session 2, this is 2A. So what is the zones of regulation? It is a curriculum that was created by an occupational therapist named Leah Cupers, and it is designed for social, emotional learning and self-regulation. And it is designed to increase and foster self-awareness and emotional intelligence. It's helpful to have a common language that's simpler to communicate with our children about their sometimes complex feelings and their level of alertness. And the 4 colors are blue, green, yellow, and red. We'll get into what they mean. And they represent different emotional zones and alertness states. So here is the zones of regulation. This is from the creator's website. And this one I like because it has all these different facial expressions showing what someone might be feeling when they are experiencing this zone. So blue is going to be low alertness. So that's going to be feelings of like low mood. You're kind of tired, sluggish, sad, or feeling sick even, tired, bored, moving slowly. Green is our optimal alertness. That's when we are ready to learn. We're feeling connected. We're feeling happy, calm, content, just feeling okay, focused, relaxed. Green is ideal alertness, and we feel in control. Yellow is when you have elevated alertness. So it's you start to feel a little bit heightened. And this could be heightened towards the positive or towards the negative. So heightened and negative emotion might be start to feel frustrated or worried or anxious. But a heightened positive might be you start to feel really silly and giggly and wiggly. You start to get really excited. And there it's elevated. You feel a little bit of loss of control. Like you just can't stop that giggle, or you just can't stop thinking that frustrating thought. And then red is extremely high alertness. So that's when you start to feel just out of control. That might, in someone without good self-regulation skills, might lead to negative behaviors in the red zone because you just feel totally out of control. You feel, in the negative side, you could feel just so mad, so angry, devastated, absolutely terrified, so scared. Or to the positive, you could be out of control with positive emotions, feeling just absolutely elated, ecstatic. It's Christmas morning. The kids are running through the house and they're going to rip open those presents. That's kind of that red elation, out of control feeling. So these are our zones, and they can help us. We can talk to our kids, and they can, with age appropriate emotions, they can kind of tell us where they're feeling with their alertness and how their body and mind are feeling. This is that same information represented a little differently. I created this and just adapted it because I think of the zones kind of stacked on top of each other. That's just how my brain looks at it, but it's the same feelings on the right there. But again, that low alertness, the blue, the ideal, elevated, extremely high. So this is just another way you could present it. And an age-appropriate way with a younger kid that you could talk about being blue is you just feel sad. That's an easier word. Green, you feel happy and content. And then older kids, you could say, I feel content. I feel relaxed. Yellow, a young age-appropriate word you could use is, it may be hard for them to differentiate between frustrated and mad when they're little, but you could just say mad for frustrated. You can say most kids are going to understand silly. And then red, again, age-appropriate younger children would understand mad or scared. And then you can use the colors. I want to make a note that these zones are not the same as behavior charts with colors. So sometimes in school, children will have charts with like a stoplight of how they did for the day, and green is good behavior. So our states are alertness states. Like I mentioned before, when you're red, you're probably more likely, if you don't have good skills, good self-regulation skills, to have negative behaviors when you're red because you feel out of control. However, just feeling red should not be associated with punishments like behaviors would, because all feelings are going to happen. In any given day, any of us adults, any of these kids are going to feel most of these colors throughout a given day. And we're definitely going to feel them throughout a given week, throughout our lifetime. So our feelings are going to happen, and that's okay. That's the point of this note. All zones are okay and are going to happen. It's what we do in response to them that matters, and we can help teach our kids that. Again, I want to note from last week, co-regulation is key. So you are going to be teaching your child how to respond in a healthy way to difficult emotions. So, in saying that, here are some actions that you could take at each zone to help you move towards that more green optimal alertness. So when you're feeling blue, you're feeling tired, sad, low, it's probably time for a rest, comfort, recharge. You can read a book, color and draw, eat a snack, drink some water to energize you, think positive thoughts, talk to someone you love. When you're green, you're ready to go. You're optimal. It's a great time to learn something, to play, to help someone, to give gratitude. And it's a great time to practice healthy habits, because if we practice being healthy when we're in a good place, then it will help us to use those habits when we need them most, when we're in a more negative place. And then when we are yellow, this is time for us or our kids to slow down. So we might use that 1, 2, 3 magic counting strategy to help our kids slow down, notice what they're doing, give them warnings. It's a good time to take deep breaths to go to a quieter space or a less cluttered space, just a calmer, quieter space. A good time to maybe stretch, to journal, do reflection, to go on a nature walk. Just slow down when we're yellow, because we're getting elevated and we got to come down to earth. So when we're red, we're way up here. We're out of control. We are flipped, as you might say. So we are not really thinking logically at this point. It's time to take a deep breath, walk away, take a break, do heavy work, which is proprioception. We're going to talk about that on a green bubble slide later. So keep that in your mind. You can go for a run or walk, get that energy, that high energy, give it somewhere to go with our body if the time and place are appropriate, and ask for help, because we feel out of control when we feel red. Next, we're going to talk about some activities that you can use to help you to move towards green within the zones. So these are alerting, uplifting, energizing activities. These are going to be things that are big, loud, fast, and bright. And we use these when we are feeling blue, low energy, low mood, and we want to move towards green. So this is a boost. But we don't really use this when we're already yellow or red because it's just going to keep bumping up our alertness. So this is to go from blue to green, but it's not going to help us if we're already at yellow or red, because then we're just going to get more escalated. These are great for the morning time when we are feeling tired, or if you're feeling sluggish in the afternoon and you need to pick me up. Some visual examples are getting some sunshine, seeing some bright colors, putting on a bright outfit on a tired day, singing, listening to loud worship music, splashing cold water on your face, spinning and jumping and dancing, big movement, running. As far as our taste goes, sour, spicy things, our sense of smell, we think of citrus like lemon and orange, eucalyptus and mint. Those are all great uplifting, bright scents. And then new textures, or if you can tolerate it, touching something like scratchier, like flipping around a pen, fidgeting with something. It's all going to be more energizing, help us to have energy to go through the day. Move from blue to green with these pink bubbles. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about calming activities. These are going to be things that are going to be helpful when we are feeling yellow or red and we want to come down to green. Or they're also good at night because nighttime, even if we're already green, it's good. It's nice to come down and feel a little tired, extra calm, feel more blue at night so that we can settle into bed, be tired enough to go to sleep. So again, these are helpful to calm us if we are upset and to help us before bedtime. Calming things are going to be things that are more quiet, slow, soft, dull lighting. Also, not noted as much here, but things that have proprioceptive input. That's all going to mimic the environment of the womb, and that's going to be calming for us. All the way from our babies are going to feel calmed by this all the way throughout our life, because that is how we feel safe. So some examples: instrumental music, just quiet noise, nature sounds like the bird song, prayer, reading and writing and reflecting, dimming the light, switching to just lamps, a hug, gentle rocking and swinging slowly, squeezing a pillow, wrapping up in a heavy fuzzy blanket, closing your eyes to decrease that what you see visually, and breathe deep, going to a cozy corner of the room to nestle up and read or do art, going on a nature walk to calm down. Autumn spices are going to be, like cinnamon, are going to be more calming. And then as far as smells, you could have vanilla, lavender, cinnamon, all more calming. Next, we have proprioception, which I refer to as the magic regulator. So what I mean by that is that it helps kind of no matter where we are at, what color zone we are feeling, it's going to help us feel more regulated, more green, more optimal. if you don't know really what to do, just think back to this slide. If you take nothing else away, remember this green bubble slide with proprioception. And here's how we can build it in. So proprioception, we also call it heavy work. I referred to it earlier. The goal is to get pressure through our joints, and that is physically and emotionally grounding for us. There's lots of examples here of ways we can build it in. So squeezing, you can get some Play-Doh, squeeze a pillow, hug tightly, and then practically, you can get your kid involved in the kitchen. They're pouring, they're stirring. That's good input through their arms as they stir. They can also help you with laundry. Carry the laundry basket, vacuum. That's heavy work. They can build with big blocks. They can do sidewalk chalk where they're crawling on the ground. So moving towards activities that are great outdoors. They can dig in the dirt. They can dump the dirt. Crawl. They can stomp. They can dance. They can jump around and crash down within safe reason. And on the playground equipment, they can climb. They can push their body up. They can pull as they go. They can do lots of great activities there. Sports, weightlifting, planks, all those active exercise things. Great proprioception for our kids and for us. Just laying on your back or your belly, you're physically on the ground and your joints get extra input. And then thinking about our clothing that we wear for someone who just really needs that calm, regulating input all day. You could wear weighted clothes, a weighted vest, or even just a regular jacket, and you put items in the pockets so you feel weight on your shoulders throughout the day. You can have those sports clothing like leggings and things that are tight, compression. And then when we think about what we're eating and what we're drinking, we can get proprioceptive input through our jaw by drinking through a straw instead of an open cup, eating crunchy and chewy food. All of these things, we're putting big input through our joints. As we wrap up the zones of regulation here, I want you to pause, or you can do this after, depending on your session, and do the zones of regulation activity chart. So there are zones of each color: red, yellow, green, and blue. I want you to think of emotions you felt in an example situation for when you felt that zone, and activities, now that we've gone through this, that you think would help when you or your child are in this zone. So go ahead and think of some examples of when you or your child were in red, yellow, green, and blue. So next we have sensory profiles. And we're just going to touch on this a little bit more briefly. And the main point of this is to point out that different people and our different children have different experiences in their minds and bodies. And some people have higher or lower tolerances to their non-preferred senses. So think back to last week about those certain sensory things that bothered you or that you liked. So some people can tolerate things that bother them more than others. And also people have varying levels of how they typically respond. And sometimes this varies from sense to sense as well. You and your children are all going to experience the world in their bodies differently in a sensory way. So very briefly, these terms are a little bit complex, but just in general, if you can think about yourself, your children, people you know, as I describe these. A sensory seeker, in my time at Blue Monarch, I witnessed a lot of children were definitely sensory seekers. They really wanted to move and move and move and go, and they liked big movement, and they liked it to be loud. So the focus of a sensory seeker is they want big input with most senses. Sensory avoiding, they're going to be more bothered by input and try to stay away from it with most of their senses. Sensitivity, they're going to detect and notice input a lot, but they're not going to do as much about it, but they're going to notice it a lot. And low registration, that is someone who misses or ignores input. Last week when I talked about how some people can have decreased sense of how their organ senses, and then all of a sudden they're feeling like a rush to the bathroom because they didn't notice until the last second. Or this might also be tricky for someone who doesn't notice pain until all of a sudden they look down and they have a cut on their hand. So those are kind of the different ways people might experience their senses. So for this slide, this is just another way of looking at those 4 categories. So this ends 2B. So if you look at your handout, it's summarized there what we talked about. And go ahead and do the sensory profile activity, which is similar to what we talked about last week when we introduced our 8 senses. But kind of think of those major ones that stick out to you, that either you or your child enjoy and seek, and those that you dislike or avoid. Go ahead and do that activity. So next we have sensory diets, and this is kind of the practical way of, okay, here's all my senses, here's the different types of activities we talked about with the bubbles. How do I practically put them into practice in my daily busy life as a mom with my kids? For building a sensory diet at home, our goal is going to be to add habits to our routines, because that is one of the most sustainable ways to make lasting change in our life, is to make it a habit, because we don't have to think about it. Providing specific sensory input throughout our day can help us and our children to get and stay in that green optimal zone. And our homes in the great outdoors are full of opportunities for sensory experiences. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to buy a lot of things or seek out a lot of resources necessarily to have sensory experiences all throughout your day. And a sensory diet, the point is that doing things together as a family and a group increases our accountability and chances to bond. Here is an idea of a sensory diet that you could practice. I put dice at the bottom there because I want to challenge you for the next week, roll the dice and do one or more of these activities in the morning, afternoon, and the evening with your family or the people in your house, and see if you think it makes a difference. So the colors of these different activities match with the bubbles. So if you want to go back to that slide as well for more ideas, you can go there. But in the morning, I recommend generally to do more energizing activities to help you feel ready for the day. So some examples: you could drink a smoothie or eat crunchy granola, wash your face with some cold water, dance to some loud praise music, big input for these energizers. Open the blinds and get some nice bright sunshine. Do 360 squat jumps, which means you're squatting and you're spinning and you're turning a quarter turn, a quarter turn, a quarter turn. They're also called around the worlds. So that's a good little morning exercise boost that's going to get big movement in your day. And choose a colorful outfit from your closet. So those are some morning energizers. In the afternoon, we can have lots of opportunities to build in proprioception. So first you could do Noah's Ark animal walks to the house, which we'll talk about on the next slide. You could do those camp sensory songs on the steps or in the living room before dinner or after dinner. And you could do a big, bold, big movement one first, and then a calmer one next if you're trying to move towards dinner or bedtime, something more calm and connective. You can go outside and swing on the playground. You can run and walk outside. You can do crafts or build projects together. You can do exercise and fitness. All that's going to have good input through our joints. And then in the evening, when it's time to calm down, those calming activities, you can do family hugs and cuddles. You can dim the lights to just lamps only. Take a warm lavender bath. Hum hymns or lullabies softly. Listen to instrumental music. Read, journal, pray, reflect, give gratitude. And you can tidy your room, and that's going to decrease the amount of visual clutter, which is going to add to your alertness. So it's going to help you calm down if you have a nice, simple, clean space. So here's a group example of the afternoon proprioceptive sensory diet activity with Noah's Ark animal walks. So this would be where everyone in the family, including you, Mom, takes the role of being a different animal from Noah's Ark to move to your next destination. And the bigger and sillier you make this, the more great proprioceptive input that you're going to get. So you could pick any animal for this, be creative, but some examples could be a bear crawl, a duck waddle, a tortoise stomp, a frog leap, crab walk. And these sensory diets are helpful at transition points throughout our day. And what I mean by that is when we want to move from one place to another physically, or when we want to shift the tone of the day. So we have had outdoor playtime, and now we're going to move towards the house, towards dinner time, where we want to sit together and connect and talk or share smiles and share experience together. But we want to be able to sit at the table to do that. So these activities can just take place between other things to help set the tone. The last part of the handout is 2C sensory diet planning activity. This is probably the most helpful, most practical activity in the handout. I encourage you to do this. So like that dice slide, you'll do a similar thing, but kind of with what ends up working with your own family. So you're going to have a time of day or a routine that is tricky for you, or that you just want to try this during, for example, the morning before breakfast, the afternoon moving from Bonduroo to dinner time. And then the purpose of what you want to do during that time. Do you want it to be energizing, calming, or proprioceptive? And then the sensory activities that you will complete and build into your day. And you can go back to the dice slide and the 3 bubble slides to help you with that. So do this chart for your homework and try out these activities. These are the references that helped me to build this presentation. And here are some extra resources or readings that you could ask to print out or watch to look at if you want even more ideas about regulation, how to talk to your kids about regulation, and OT's ideas of activities for regulation.